It's been more than a week since 5-year-old Summer Wells went missing.
We are more concerned than ever and desperate to find her.
The child was last seen at her home in Hawkins County, Tennessee. Law enforcement and concerned citizens combed through the area, navigating rough terrain in some places, but have yet to find her. The investigation hasn't turned up much information either. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation says the circumstances surrounding her disappearance remain unclear.
While we've not ruled out an abduction, we simply do not have any evidence at this point to confirm that's what occurred. It's possible that she wandered off and is lost and afraid.
From News Channel 11.
Breaking news at 6, day 9 in the search for 5-year-old Summer Wells, and investigators say they are heartbroken and extremely frustrated as the case is taking longer than usual to resolve. Thanks for joining us at 6. I'm Sarah Diamond.
I'm Josh Smith. Take a look at some new photos of Summer Wells that we obtained today. Summer's mother shared these with us. In a news briefing late this afternoon, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation said the search for Summer is, quote, definitely outside the norm.
Live in the country, you don't expect that kind of stuff.
Calm down for a minute.
No, I want to go.
These are tough questions.
No, I'm being interrogated again, and I don't want to do this anymore. Yes, I am.
We'll stop. I want you to feel comfortable.
No, I want out, and I want to go home.
Calm down.
I don't want to.
It was just another typical sunny June afternoon in rural Hawkins County, Tennessee, when the frantic 911 call came in. 5-year-old Summer Wells was missing. In an instant, what began as an uneventful day turned into every parent's worst nightmare and launched a mystery that still grips the nation 3 years later. On June 15, 2021, Summer Wells woke up excited to accompany her mother Candace to take her grandmother to a doctor's appointment. The vivacious young girl with blonde hair and blue eyes had no idea that by the end of the day, she would vanish without a trace from her family's secluded 11-acre property. After the appointment, Summer went swimming with her mother and one of Candace's friends at a local watering hole. By all accounts, Summer was her normal, bubbly self, laughing and playing in the water. Images captured by Candace's friend at the swimming spot that day show Summer smiling, safe and happy. At approximately 6:30 p.m., Summer was reportedly last seen entering her house by her mother. Moments later, when Candace went to check on the little girl and her brothers, Summer had inexplicably disappeared. Thus began a parent's worst nightmare, frantically searching everywhere imaginable while desperately hoping Summer just wandered off and would reappear at any moment. But as daylight faded and the summer night set in, the unthinkable reality took hold that something terrible had happened to little Summer Wells. In the immediate aftermath of Summer's disappearance, local, state, and federal law enforcement descended upon the region to search for Summer. Canine units attempted to pick up her scent. Helicopters scanned the vast landscape from above, and search crews combed through over 700 acres surrounding the Wells home.
It's been more than a week since 5-year-old Summer Wells went missing.
We are more concerned than ever and desperate to find her.
The child was last seen at her home in Hawkins County, Tennessee. Law enforcement and concerned citizens combed through the area, navigating rough terrain in some places, but have yet to find her. The investigation hasn't turned up much information either. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation says the circumstances surrounding her disappearance remain unclear.
While we've not ruled out an abduction, we simply do not have any evidence at this point to confirm that's what occurred. It's possible that she wandered off and is lost and afraid.
But not a single trace of the missing child emerged. Initially, it was suspected Summer could have wandered off and gotten lost in the woods near her home, which backed up to thick forests. However, with no signs of the chatty child found after extensive, exhaustive searches, kidnapping became the focus. But with no witnesses and no evidence of an abduction unearthed, investigators hit dead end after dead end.
A lot. I know she didn't walk away from this property by herself or off this yard by her swing. I feel in my heart that somebody has came up here and took her, has lured her away from here. Me and my mother and her were planting flowers. And we went in after we got done washing our hands, and she got a piece of candy from Grandma, and she wanted to go back over and see her brothers. And I said, okay, and I walked her all the way over to the porch, and I watched her walk into the kitchen where the boys were watching TV. And I told the boys, I said, watch Summer, I'll be back. In 2 minutes I came back, and I asked the boys where their sister was, and they said, she went downstairs, Mom, to play with her toys in the playroom. I said, okay. And I yelled downstairs for her a couple times, and I didn't get no answer, which was unusual because usually she always answers me. And so I went down there to check, and she was nowhere in sight.
As days turned to weeks with no breaks in the case, the national spotlight fell upon Summer's parents, Don and Candace, and grandmother Candy. Intense scrutiny of the Wells family revealed a disturbing history with the law, including drug use and allegations of domestic assault. Both Don and Candace came under fire, but steadfastly denied any involvement in their daughter's disappearance. With suspicions swirling but no evidence of guilt or wrongdoing, the case gradually faded from headlines for a time. Then, in October 2021, a drunken late-night arrest put Don Wells back in the public eye when police took him into custody for driving under the influence with a firearm in his truck.
We begin tonight with new information just into the newsroom. The father of Summer Wells has been arrested for driving while under the influence. According to the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office, Donald Wells was driving in the wrong lane while intoxicated last night. During the traffic stop, Wells admitted to officers that he had been drinking following an argument with his wife. During the stop, officers found an open container in his vehicle, and he failed a field sobriety test. He was released from the Hawkins County Jail earlier this morning. Wells' daughter Summer has been missing since this past May and has been the subject of national attention ever since.
During a subsequent jailhouse call with a local reporter, an impaired Don made shocking, unsubstantiated claims that something happened to Summer in the house before alluding to human trafficking. The bombshell speculation detonated the case back into the national spotlight and spurred rampant speculation Summer had never left the property alive. Despite attempts by their lawyer to walk back the disturbing remarks, Don's comments cast further suspicion upon the Wells family. Adding fuel to the fire, Candace and Don made separate appearances on the Dr. Phil show where both passed polygraph tests but continued to provide conflicting information.
Okay, well, let me ask you, Candace, if I understand correctly what you've said. You took Summer in the front door.
Yes.
And you said to the three boys, keep an eye on Summer.
Yes.
Okay. Then you did what?
Then I went back outside to my mom's camper, which was right next to the house, and I had to fix her knee brace for her.
What'd you do?
I went back in the house.
When you went back in, what'd you see?
And the three boys sitting there watching TV.
Okay. And no Summer?
No Summer.
Okay, what'd you do then?
I asked the boys where she was at, and they told me that she went downstairs to play with her toys.
Live in the country, you don't expect that kind of stuff.
Calm down for a minute.
No, I want to go outside.
These are tough questions.
No, I'm being interrogated again, and I don't want to do this anymore. Yes, I am.
We'll stop. I want you to feel comfortable.
No, I want out, and I want to go home.
Calm down.
I don't want
Hi.
Candace claimed Don's imprisonment pushed her back into alcohol addiction as she struggled to cope with her missing daughter and suspicions about what truly happened. Meanwhile, Summer's 3 older brothers were removed from their parents' care by Child Protective Services due to environmental concerns relating to the intense public scrutiny and threats stemming from rampant, unfounded theories circulating online accusing the couple of wrongdoing. Nearly 2 years later, in May 2023, Don and Candace Wells packed up and left Tennessee for Arkansas without their sons. Despite public pleas to reveal their location to aid in the search for Summer, the couple has refused and cut off communication with their attorney. In June 2023, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released a new age-progressed photo showing what Summer may look like today at nearly 8 years old, if in fact she is still alive. For all the questions raised about what really happened to Summer and suspicions cast upon the Wells family, definitive answers remain elusive. Investigators maintain they have found no concrete evidence Summer was abducted, nor proof to arrest or charge anyone in connection with her disappearance. Nonetheless, rampant speculation still abounds on social media, with armchair detectives attempting to piece together clues. Various online groups devoted to Summer's case foster relentless conjecture and theories into Summer's fate, as well as accusations against her parents. However, local authorities have warned web sleuths and online communities focused on the case have spread dangerous misinformation that diverted critical investigative resources.
And for the first time in weeks, we are hearing from the TBI about the investigation into the disappearance of 5-year-old Summer Wells. It's been more than 3 months since the little girl went missing from her Hawkins County home. And News Channel 5's Aaron Cantrell joins us live from the TBI's headquarters with more this morning. And Aaron, what are the agents saying about the case? Do they have an update?
Well, Amy, unfortunately, they say they have more questions than answers at this point, and right now Summer Wells is still missing, but they're asking for more reliable tips. And it's been more than 3 months since she disappeared from her home there in East Tennessee in Hawkins County. That was on June 15th. She was seen inside their home after playing outside and was never seen again, according to her family. The TBI issued an Amber Alert the following day, concerned for her well-being. They say misinformation and speculation has hurt the case. Now, a lot of the tips they are receiving are rooted in rumors and bad information on social media, according to the Hawkins County Sheriff. Now, Sheriff Ronnie Lawson says they want more reliable tips, but they're still following up on hundreds of them. He wants the community to know they're still searching for Summer, and they can't release all the details about the investigation out to the public.
We're still looking, we're still searching, we're still following tips. And one thing that we need to do is preserve the integrity of this case, because we can't tell everything we're doing. We can't tell everything we know.
As the 3rd anniversary of Summer's disappearance approaches, definitive answers behind her baffling vanishing remain frustratingly out of reach. In the small town of Rogersville, reminders of little Summer Wells still loom in the form of missing person flyers, handmade ribbons adorning trees and telephone poles, and vigils held by those determined to keep her case alive until she's found. For Don Wells' sister Donna, Summer's room remains untouched, as if the little girl might walk through the door any day. It's been really hard on the kids, Donna laments about Summer's brothers now being separated in foster care. Donna desperately hopes they can be reunited someday and prays every night for Summer's safe return home. The lacks of answers eat away at Summer's loved ones daily. Not knowing if Summer is dead or alive compounds the unrelenting pain and anguish of her absence. In their darkest moments, some closest to Summer have questions whether she was abducted, wandered off, or met an even more sinister fate. Candace still adamantly insists her daughter was kidnapped. However, with no evidence Summer was taken, many fear the bubbly little girl suffered a terrible demise. For all the speculation and suspicions cast, no one has provided definitive proof about what really happened to Summer Wells. Until then, the legacy of Summer Moon Utah Wells remains frozen in time, memorialized as the smiling, pig-tailed kindergartner whose disappearance on June 15, 2021, remains an open wound for all those whose lives were forever changed the moment Summer went missing without a trace. The ongoing search for answers for the truth persists in hopes that one day justice and closure can be found.
Police are making another push to find a missing teenager who vanished without a trace 8 days ago. Good evening, I'm Kelly Swoop. At this hour, police are still passing out thousands of flyers and canvassing the area where 16-year-old Felicia Barnes was last seen.
I appreciate everything everybody is doing. But every moment, it feels like I'm going through labor pains over and over and over again. I don't need this circle. I need my baby found.
She disappeared December 28th, and many intensive searches turned up nothing. But now the body of 16-year-old Felicia Barnes has been found. We have been following this breaking news all afternoon. Barnes' body was one of two pulled from the Susquehanna River yesterday. The other body is that of a man, and tonight police believe the two may be linked.
Felicia Simone Barnes was born on April 4, 1994 in Monroe, North Carolina. She was the only child of Janice Salas, who raised Felicia on her own in a tight-knit household after separating from Felicia's father, Russell Barnes. Those who knew Felicia described her as a remarkably bright, charismatic, and mature teenager. She stood out for her intelligence and discipline, showcasing a level of dedication beyond her 16 years. Academically, Felicia was thriving. She attended Union Academy, a public charter school near Monroe, where she challenged herself with honors courses. Felicia held down an impressive 3.9 GPA and stayed busy with various extracurricular activities. Felicia was a standout member of her school's dance team, using dance as an athletic and creative outlet. She also ran track and played soccer, pursuits which kept her physically active and competitive. Beyond just athletics, Felicia developed a passion for psychology. She found herself fascinated by human behavior and motivations. Felicia dreamed that one day she could earn a psychology degree, then utilize that knowledge to become a counselor and help others work through challenges. With her obvious intellectual gifts and drive to uplift people, Felicia was on track for an early high school graduation at just 16 years old. Those who knew this disciplined, promising young woman expected she was destined for big things. Tragically, though, Felicia Barnes would never get the chance to realize her full potential. At 16 years old, her life was cut short under horrific circumstances in a case that still haunts investigators to this day. Growing up, Felicia had no relationship with her biological father, Russell Barnes. But Russell did have an older daughter living in Baltimore, Maryland, 28-year-old Dina Barnes, who was Felicia's half-sister. Dina and Felicia never met while growing up, but in 2010, they first made contact through Facebook and quickly formed a close bond, despite being separated by over a decade in age. That newfound sisterly bond tragically brought Felicia to Baltimore, where the promising 16-year-old would go missing and lose her life in December of 2010. Dina Barnes was 12 years older than Felicia, but the half-sisters soon discovered they had a natural chemistry. After connecting on Facebook, they began talking on the phone regularly and texting every day. Dina found Felicia incredibly mature and driven for just 16 years old. She was impressed by how Felicia challenged herself with honors courses while also playing sports and taking leadership roles in clubs at her North Carolina school. For Felicia, it was exciting to bond with a big sister figure after growing up as an only child. The sisters made plans for Felicia to visit Dina in Baltimore during her winter break in December 2010. It would be the first chance for the half-siblings to meet in person after months of building a relationship online. Dina offered Felicia her spare room in the apartment she shared with her boyfriend of several years, Michael Johnson. Dina and Michael lived in a modest apartment located near Reisterstown Road Plaza in northwest Baltimore. Michael worked as a warehouse supervisor and generally kept to himself. By 2010, he was essentially a member of Dina's family after nearly a decade of dating her. In fact, Michael and Dina's long-term relationship had hit a recent rough patch, but they were trying to work through their issues. When Dina first told Michael about reconnecting with her teenage half-sister, Felicia, he showed no hesitation or concern. Michael said he looked forward to meeting Sis and playfully referred to the teen as his own little sis as well. Nothing seemed amiss as the plans came together for Felicia's big trip to Baltimore. Her family saw it as a chance for Felicia to bond with her long-lost half-sister, see a new part of the country, and experience big city life. They had no reason to fear for Felicia's safety. On December 17, 2010, 16-year-old Felicia Barnes arrived by train in Baltimore. Her experience instantly exceeded her small-town life back home. Over the next 10 days, Dina took Felicia shopping at malls, introduced her to new restaurants, and brought her to museums and parties around the city. By all accounts, Felicia embraced the new social opportunities and freedom. She checked in regularly via text with family back home and posted photos of her exciting new adventures. Felicia assured her mother Janice that she was having the time of her life exploring Baltimore. Still, some aspects of Felicia's visit concerned her family in hindsight, as the 16-year-old's older sister, Dina, permitted Felicia to drink alcohol and participate in parties with her social circle. Felicia was allegedly encouraged by Dina to play drinking games, including some that involved risky behavior like nudity. It was a side of teenage life Felicia had never experienced under her mother's watchful eye back in North Carolina. Another escalating concern was the inappropriate intimacy developing between Felicia and Michael Johnson. As her trip continued, Felicia and Michael increasingly flirted through calls, texts, social media posts, and comments. Hundreds of texts were exchanged, including late into the night. The volume of communication between the 28-year-old man and 16-year-old girl raised red flags, even if the messages themselves contained no explicit content. Felicia's mother, Janice, grew especially troubled by the interactions between her underage daughter and a man 12 years her senior. But the trip was nearing its end, and Felicia would return home in just a few days. No one close to Felicia sensed any looming danger. Until December 28, 2010. On that fateful final day of her Baltimore visit, 16-year-old Felicia Simone Barnes vanished without a trace. The morning of the 28th began normally. Felicia was alone in Dina's apartment as her sister had left for work. Felicia texted Dina around 12:30 p.m., saying she planned to get something to eat, then walked to a nearby shopping plaza. This was the last known communication from the teen. When Dina finished work and returned home that evening, Felicia was gone. At first, Dina thought nothing of it, assuming Felicia had connected with friends locally. But as hours passed without any word, panic set in. Felicia wasn't responding to concerned texts or calls from Dina or her family back in North Carolina. Eventually, Dina contacted the Baltimore Police Department to report her teenage half-sister missing. Detectives immediately dove into investigating Felicia's disappearance. They quickly collected security camera footage from around the apartment, traced her cell phone and social media activity, and interviewed Dina, her friends, and Michael, the last known people to have seen Felicia.
Police are making another push to find a missing teenager who vanished without a trace 8 days ago. Good evening, I'm Kelly Swoop. At this hour, police are still passing out thousands of flyers and canvassing the area where 16-year-old Felicia Barnes was last seen. Roosevelt Leftwich joins us now with the latest on the investigation. Rosie?
Well, Kelly, it has been 8 days since 16-year-old Felicia Barnes left her sister's apartment to try to get something to eat at a nearby shopping center. And city police and the girl's family are fearing the worst. Today, about 25 city police cadets and more than a dozen city police detectives canvassed the apartment complex and nearby Reisterstown Road Plaza with flyers looking for any leads in this case. Police admit that they are stumped as there are few clues here. They have executed several search warrants and have interviewed dozens of people and have even what they call persons of interest, but so far no solid leads in this case. Police say the one thing they are sure about is that this girl would not go off on her own.
We look at the individual's background. We look for any sort of substance problems, substance abuse, any sort of emotional problems. None of that is present here. We have nothing to suggest that Felicia Barnes is off of her own free will in some other part of the country.
Now, at this point, authorities are looking for any tips in this case. They've set up a special hotline, tip line on your screen. It's 1-855-223-0033. Again, that's 1-855-223-0033. It's going to be manned 24 hours a day for any information about the Barnes case. We'll have a lot more on this story coming up at 6.
I appreciate everything everybody is doing. But every moment, it feels like I'm going through labor pains over and over and over again. I don't need this circle. I need my baby found.
Missing teen Felicia Barnes' 17th birthday was almost 2 weeks ago, but her family has decided not to celebrate her birthday until she is found. The North Carolina teenager was visiting her sister in Baltimore when she disappeared on December 18th.
Every morning I cry, every evening I cry. I have not slept. My whole family from Atlanta to New York to in Baltimore, everyone that knows me has not slept.
Felicia's family says she's a straight-A high school student on her way to graduating a year early and already applying for college. Her family and law enforcement officials are frustrated at the lack of leads in the investigation. 2 congressmen issued a joint statement asking the public for help. A billboard has been posted along a local highway with Felicia's photos, and a $10,000 reward has been established for information on the teen's whereabouts. Felicia's father says he believes his daughter is alive somewhere in Baltimore. Baltimore police say the missing teen could have been abducted.
There's no smoking gun. There are people of interest. But there's no one person that is of more interest than the others at this point.
Outwardly, Michael Johnson was fully cooperative with the intense police questioning. He said he visited the apartment briefly midday to pick up personal items while moving out after his recent split from Dina. Michael claimed Felicia said she was going to get food and he had no reason to think anything was wrong. Yet, certain actions raised suspicion in detectives' minds. Social media posts and call records indicated 500 texts were exchanged between Michael and Felicia during her visit. If there was no inappropriate relationship, why the excessive communication? Police also doubted Michael's reason for being at the apartment that day. Security footage didn't show him moving any items out, despite his claim he was picking up his belongings post-breakup. It seemed possible Michael, a 28-year-old man, had developed an unhealthy attachment to 16-year-old Felicia during her trip. Perhaps when he was alone with her on the 28th, things turned violent after she rebuffed his advances. But without hard evidence, Michael couldn't be named an official suspect. In the weeks following Felicia's disappearance, few promising leads emerged. Some worried the teenager had been kidnapped and transported across state lines. But as days turned to weeks with no breaks, fears mounted that Felicia was gone for good. 4 agonizing months passed before answers finally surfaced, and they were far more heartbreaking than Felicia's loved ones imagined. On April 20th, 2011, a gruesome discovery was made nearly 50 miles outside Baltimore. A Pennsylvania man spotted something abnormal floating near the Conowingo Dam in Maryland's Susquehanna River. He called the police, who brought in divers to investigate. In the water, search teams recovered the badly decomposed remains of a young female body. It would take weeks for examiners to officially confirm the identity through dental records. But inside, Felicia's family already knew. Their deepest fears had been tragically realized.
She disappeared December 28th, and many intensive searches turned up nothing. But now the body of 16-year-old Felicia Barnes has been found. We have been following this breaking news all afternoon. Barnes' body was one of two pulled from the Susquehanna River yesterday. The other body is that of a man, and tonight police believe the two may be linked. We have live team coverage beginning with I-Team lead investigative reporter Jane Miller at State Police headquarters in Pikesville. Jane.
Donna, police first suspected the body that was pulled from the river yesterday might be that of Felicia Barnes because of a distinctive tattoo. Then this afternoon, dental records confirmed it.
The body of the teenager was pulled yesterday from the Susquehanna River near the Conowingo Dam. Also recovered from the water was the body of a young male south of the dam. He has yet to be identified. As we reported earlier, investigators initially suspected the female's body might be that of Barnes because of a distinctive tattoo, a rose on the lower part of one of her legs. Sources tell us Barnes' body and the body of the male were unclothed. No identification was present on either of them. Today answers one question, the most important. After all these months, Felicia Barnes has been found. But how did she die? Who's responsible? And how did she end up in the river?
The area north of the Conowingo Dam is not an area that's all that easy to reach. Now, police and investigators do believe that the two bodies are linked because they really have no reason to believe otherwise. Sources tell us the conditions of the bodies were very similar, and as I said, both had no clothes on, neither had any identification. We are still waiting for cause and manner of death in this case, as well as the identification of the young male. There is a briefing tonight here at State Police headquarters by both Maryland State Police and Baltimore City Police. This is a criminal investigation. Reporting live tonight from Pikesville, I'm Jane Miller, WBAL TV 11 News.
All right, thank you, Jane. Of course, the search for Felicia Barnes has been intense and sustained. Baltimore City Police teamed up with federal agents. The Guardian Angels offered assistance, and digital billboards soliciting tips were set up along major highways. I-Team investigative reporter David Collins is live in the studio with the details on the efforts and the time that it took to find her. David.
Donna, she vanished without a trace December 28th. The Baltimore City Police efforts to find her grew in earnest January 2nd. At the time of her disappearance, authorities considered it one of the strangest and most vexing missing persons cases they ever investigated.
Days after family members reported Felicia Barnes missing, Baltimore City Police and federal agents began an intensive and sustained search for the high school honor student from Monroe, North Carolina. She disappeared December 28th, 2010, visiting her sisters in Baltimore.
Okay, everyone, what we're going to do is we're going to do an area canvass in the area of the Reisterstown Square apartments.
Detectives went door to door with her photo, asking questions, looking for shreds of evidence that could turn into a lead. But she had vanished without a trace. No cell phone calls, no use of her credit cards, no updates on her Facebook page. Her half-sister Kelly Barnes says Felicia last posted at 11:30 a.m. and mentioned being hungry. Kelly writes, "The day Felicia went missing, she texted me while I was at work and asked me to come pick her up. I started calling her, texting her, leaving her voicemails, everything and nothing."
My family's not eating. My family's not even right focused, but on this situation.
That's the only thing that's been helping me through this is taking Valiums to calm my nerves down.
After family pleas and the ongoing police investigation still hadn't turned up leads, digital billboards were put up on major highways, including I-95, soliciting tips.
A spokesman for the Baltimore Police Department.
City police considered it one of the strangest and most vexing missing persons cases they ever investigated, yet it failed to generate much national attention, something her family found very disappointing. Friends and classmates at Union Academy prayed for her return.
We all have faith that you're going to bring her home real soon, Lord.
Union Academy offered a $25,000 reward for information. As her friends posted tributes on YouTube, a $10,000 reward was being offered in Baltimore. The Guardian Angels provided their assistance in looking for Felicia. That search ended around 7:30 a.m. Wednesday. According to police, crews working on the Conowingo Dam spotted a body in the river. Natural Resources Police recovered the body of a female from the water.
Reached by phone, Felicia's mother says she's been in mourning since the day her daughter disappeared, and she's grateful for all the efforts made to find her. Felicia was a track star and honor student. She planned to graduate early and attend Towson University.
The nude body was positively identified as belonging to Felicia Barnes. The medical examiner concluded Felicia died of asphyxiation, meaning she had been intentionally strangled or smothered by someone. All hope that Felicia may have run away or accidentally drowned was erased. This was clearly an intentional murder. For investigators, a new mission began, bringing the 16-year-old's killer to justice. Their focus returned to Dina's apartment, which had to be the initial crime scene. Finding DNA traces or other evidence to identify a suspect would be crucial. But the physical case proved challenging. With so many weeks having passed, any DNA or fibers left behind were likely contaminated or destroyed. Prosecutors could theorize what happened, but without hard proof, no charges could be brought. The investigation hit its first major breakthrough over a year later, thanks to a critical witness coming forward. James McCrae claimed he personally observed Felicia Barnes's lifeless body inside her sister's apartment back on December 28th, the day she first disappeared. McCrae said Michael Johnson confessed to him that he had strangled Felicia after making unwanted sexual advances. Michael supposedly admitted he improperly touched the 16-year-old, then used a pillow to suffocate her when she resisted. According to McCrae, Michael asked for help removing Felicia's body from the premises. Based on this bombshell eyewitness account, police finally felt confident enough to arrest Michael Johnson for Felicia's murder. On April 26, 2012, exactly 16 months after Felicia first vanished, officers arrested Michael Johnson outside his home. Detectives were sure he had killed her inside the apartment, then used a plastic storage container to secretly move her body out of the building before disposing of it in the river.
The last person believed to have seen missing North Carolina teen Felicia Barnes alive is now charged with her murder. And that's our top story tonight at 6. At this hour, Michael Johnson is in jail without bail. Police arrested him outside his Baltimore home last night.
And there's brewing controversy surrounding this case after the city's lead detective was suspended in an unrelated incident involving his own daughter. My team is providing team coverage on this tonight. Lead investigative reporter Jane Miller is in our newsroom with the latest on the controversy surrounding the police detective. But we're going to begin with 11 News reporter David Collins live at police headquarters. David.
Well, Donna, prosecutors declined to disclose the cause of death or any evidence from that matter associated with this case. But sources tell 11 News that Felicia was asphyxiated and that Michael Johnson was seen carrying a large rubber-based container to his car around the time of her disappearance. The man arrested and indicted in connection with the death of Felicia Barnes is longtime family friend Michael Johnson. He's the former boyfriend of Felicia's older sister, Dina. Baltimore City State's Attorney Greg Bernstein suggested she was murdered in Baltimore, but provided few other details about the case.
We believe that we've got the right guy.
The Barnes case attracted national attention. Back in December 2010, the 16-year-old honor student from North Carolina spent the holidays with family members in Baltimore. She mysteriously disappeared December 28th. A year later, Felicia's body was found floating in the Susquehanna River near the Conowingo Dam. The state's attorney declined to discuss the cause of death or what type of evidence they have to support the indictment. But according to a source, the cause of death is asphyxiation. The source also says Johnson was seen taking a large rubber-based container to his car around the time she was reported missing. Reached by phone, Felicia's father, Russell, said the family is rejoicing over the news of the arrest. Barnes' uncle, Harry Watson, thanked God for this day. Relatives suspected Johnson from the beginning. They knew him well. He went on family vacations with them.
I would hope that he would do the right thing. If it was him, tell the truth. Tell the truth and give Felicia's family some type of closure.
Felicia's brother Brian wears her picture around his neck. He says a stranger gave it to his mom the first week she disappeared.
There's little stuff just to keep her in our memory, so I wear this every day and it never comes off.
Meanwhile, Johnson remains locked up in central booking. The indictment which led to his arrest is sealed. According to Johnson's attorney, Russell Neverdun, he suffered a laceration under his eye and bruises about his face when police took him into custody. Neverdun believes prosecutors rushed to judgment. He cites the suspension earlier this week of the lead detective in the Barnes killing in an unrelated incident.
He says prosecutors were afraid of losing credibility in the case, and they arrested Johnson before the case fell apart.
I think that at best what they had was a circumstantial case.
Again, that question of credibility stems from the suspension this week of the head detective. Lead investigative reporter Jane Miller has that story live from the newsroom.
A neighbor reported seeing Michael struggle to carry a large 35-gallon plastic tub outside and into a vehicle on the very day Felicia disappeared. Its dimensions matched up with the container McCrae said was used. Presented with an apparent confession, prosecutors hoped they finally had enough evidence to bring Michael to justice. But getting a conviction would prove extraordinarily difficult. Michael denied every accusation and dismissed McCrae as a liar. His defense team was confident that without DNA evidence, surveillance footage, or fingerprints directly linking him to Felicia's death, he could not be found guilty. The first trial did not commence until January 2013, over 2 years after Felicia initially disappeared from Baltimore. James McCrae delivered compelling testimony, describing how Michael callously confessed to murdering Felicia and requested help hiding her body. Additional witnesses said they observed Michael struggling to move a heavy plastic tub out of Dina's apartment on the day in question. But without forensic evidence, the defense maintained there was still reasonable doubt. Michael avoided even looking at Felicia's family as the jury went into deliberations. In the end, the circumstantial testimony was enough to sway the jury. After 2 days, they returned with a guilty verdict on the charge of second-degree murder. At long last, Felicia's loved ones felt some justice had been served. But their closure was brutally ripped away 10 days later. Local police revealed prosecutors that James McCrae, the critical eyewitness who claimed Michael confessed, was unreliable with a long history of fabricated claims.
Story at 5, a stunning decision in a high-profile murder case. A Baltimore judge today ordered a new trial for the man convicted of killing 16-year-old Felicia Barnes.
Yeah, the decision came just 6 weeks after Michael Johnson was found guilty of murder. 11 News I-Team lead investigative reporter Jane Miller is live tonight at Courthouse East. And Jane, what happened?
Well, Stan, there was an audible gasp in the packed courtroom when Judge Alfred Nance announced his decision just after lunch, or just after 12 o'clock this afternoon after hearing arguments all morning. It is something that almost never happens, but it did today, dealing prosecutors a huge blow in a high-profile case. The father of Felicia Barnes left court today clearly disappointed.
Let's do it again. The state reassured me that we're going to retry Michael Maurice Johnson for murdering Felicia. It's a setback, but my spirit is still great. My family's spirit is still great, so we're going to keep it moving.
Baltimore Judge Alfred Nance ruled Michael Johnson deserves a new trial because he found the prosecutors withheld critical information about the state's key witness in the Felicia Barnes murder case, inmate James McCrae.
I think it was pretty obvious that the state got caught with their hand in the cookie jar.
McCrae testified Johnson called him the day Felicia died, showed him her body, and said he killed her to keep her quiet after having sex. He was the only witness to so directly pin Johnson with the crime. But the judge agreed with Johnson's lawyers that prosecutors failed to disclose the full story about McCrae's criminal record. They turned over a handwritten summary of his record, not the typical rap sheet, including the fact McCrae had been in custody in Baltimore County. That's important because it may have allowed McCrae to know key details about the crime through the media. Prosecutors told jurors there's no way he would have had access.
When you do the background understanding, you find out his entire background, his entire history. He writes letters to the police based on cases that appear to be in the media, and therefore he offers testimony.
The judge ruled prosecutors, quote, severely violated the rules. No defendant, he said, is guaranteed a perfect trial. A defendant is guaranteed a fair trial. George, can we talk to you? Could you get State's Attorney? Yep. Deputy State's Attorney George Hazel was in the courtroom when the new trial was ordered. He declined to stop for questions. State's Attorney Greg Bernstein declined requests to speak with the media. He issued a written statement saying he was disappointed. The new trial date in this case is set for May 28th. The charge of first-degree murder no longer applies in this case. That's because of double jeopardy. Michael Johnson was already tried and found not guilty of that count.
As a result, Michael was granted a retrial. For the North Carolina teen's family, it was a crushing blow. Prosecutors insisted Michael was still guilty, but without McCrae had lost their strongest piece of evidence. Building another case felt daunting. Meanwhile, Michael remained free on bail for months until the second trial could commence. That retrial finally began in June of 2014. The state introduced fresh evidence, a video showing Felicia, Michael, Dina, and others naked and intoxicated.
More from the defense team for the man charged with killing Felicia Barnes. They've learned that he is in a sex tape with the victim and her older sister. Cheryl Connor spent time talking with 3 attorneys tonight and joins us with more on the case and a really bizarre twist here.
Yeah, Rosie, and the defense team tells me they knew about the tape, but they were holding off on using it to protect the reputation of Felicia Barnes and her family. Now they have no choice but to defend their client, Michael Johnson, and that, they say, will help their case. A team of defense attorneys is now coming up with a plan on how a sex tape involving their client will play into the trial. 28-year-old Michael Johnson is charged with killing Felicia Barnes, a North Carolina teen visiting her family in Baltimore for Christmas 2 years ago.
What's disturbing about this is that one of the people happened to be a sister, an older sister, an adult, who's engaged in sexual conduct while her sister is engaged in sexual conduct. And it's not with Mr. Johnson. It's with another person.
The defense team watched the recording, which we're told was stored on Dina Barnes' cell phone, and says Felicia was engaged in sex acts with Johnson's younger brother. Dina Barnes, her older half-sister, was with Johnson. Sometime later, the medical examiner says Barnes died from asphyxiation, but
there's no choking, there's no roughhousing, no horseplay, anything of that nature that's physical or aggressive in any means, anything that's masochistic, how you would look at it, nothing of that nature.
The defense has to respond to the state's request to close the courtroom for over 16 minutes while the tape is played, but open it back to the public while Dina Barnes is on the stand. Prosecutors don't typically speak before a trial, so we don't know why they believe a sex tape with minors is worth playing in court.
I think this exposure, this sex tape at this late in time on their 2-year anniversary of this girl's disappearance is appalling. It is basically about character assassination.
Felicia Barnes went missing 2 years ago today. 4 months later, her remains were found in the Susquehanna River near the Conowingo Dam. Her death was ruled a homicide days later, but it took another year to make an arrest. The defense won't tell us all of their attacks, but one is a witness who claims he saw Felicia alive in Cecil County.
The state's contention is that this murder happened in Baltimore City. Otherwise, if the state believed that she was murdered in Cecil County, then this case would be in Cecil County.
The defense claims it shows Johnson and Barnes are friendly, which is quite different from what was painted at Johnson's bail review. That was back in April. It also brings into question if anyone will be charged with possessing child pornography. The age of consent is 16 in Maryland, but the age to tape a sex act is 18. Right now, we don't know if Dina Barnes or anyone else will be charged. To close the courtroom for the viewing of the videotape, that will have to be worked out before the trial date. The defense believes its client has the right to keep it open.
Prosecutors described it as illustrating the inappropriate nature of Michael's relationship with the teen. Additional witnesses again placed Michael struggling to move a large plastic tub on the day in question. But the defense countered the lack of forensics proving Felicia was ever inside. And this time, the jury could not agree unanimously on a verdict. After 2 weeks, the judge declared a mistrial, citing the hopelessly deadlocked jury. Prosecutors were forced to start over again from scratch.
The second trial for the man accused of killing Felicia Barnes ended in a mistrial. Michael Johnson is accused of killing Barnes, a teenager from North Carolina who was visiting her family in Baltimore. And the ruling today gave evidence that was submitted to jurors, even though both the prosecution and the defense agreed it would not reach the jury. The judge determined this was an accident, and both sides will return to court on Wednesday to select a brand new trial date. Johnson was previously convicted of killing Barnes, but at sentencing, the judge threw out that conviction and ordered a second trial. The judge cited issues with one of the prosecution's key witnesses.
but they were unwilling to give up, insisting Michael would not get away with murdering an innocent 16-year-old. Yet a third trial, which kicked off nearly 3 years after Felicia's death in December 2016, ended the same way. Prosecutors utilized phone records and texts between Michael and Felicia to imply an inappropriate attachment. But the judge eventually acquitted Michael on all charges, feeling the circumstantial evidence remained insufficient.
After 7 years of questions, a one-time suspect is acquitted in the murder case of Felicia Barnes. This was the third attempt to convict Michael Johnson for the 16-year-old's murder. The North Carolina honors student vanished in Baltimore in 2010. Her body found months later. WJZ is live. Joy Burnett tells us the judge was not convinced there was enough evidence to convict Johnson. Joy.
Well, this case had been going back and forth for 7 years. Michael Johnson was even convicted of murder. But after today's acquittal, he's now a free man. Michael Johnson said nothing as he walked out of court and then drove off. A judge acquitted Johnson in the Felicia Barnes murder trial. The 16-year-old disappeared in 2010 while on break in Baltimore from North Carolina. Barnes' half-sister once dated Johnson, and he'd long been a suspect. But on Friday, the judge said there wasn't enough evidence to convict the 34-year-old. One of his attorneys cried after the ruling.
We grieve for the Barnes family and this tragedy, but convicting an innocent man is not justice for Felicia Barnes. We are grateful that this 7-year nightmare is over for Mr. Johnson and his family.
This is the third time he went on trial for her murder. The first conviction was overturned, then came a mistrial, and now an acquittal. Felicia Barnes' father was present in the early stages of the 4-week trial, but not on Friday.
Do you feel the evidence is strong enough? Are you still confident?
Always confident. Always confident. Always confident.
State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby said she spoke with the family after the judge acquitted Johnson.
I am extremely disappointed by today's decision, but the judicial process has played out, and we have no choice but to follow that decision and to respect that decision.
State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby also said they believe they were pursuing the person who actually killed Felicia Barnes, but she said they also have to respect the judge's ruling. Reporting live tonight, Joy Burnett for WJZ.
After half a decade battling the justice system, Michael Johnson finally escaped all accountability for Felicia Barnes' murder. The promising teenager's loved ones were left in agonizing limbo, still searching for definitive answers about why Felicia was so cruelly taken from them. In the decades since Felicia Barnes first disappeared from Baltimore, her tragic murder remains officially unsolved. While many maintain Michael Johnson likely played a role, police have been unable to gather the conclusive evidence needed to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. While the circumstances around Felicia's death are still shrouded in mystery, her spirit lives on through the people she impacted and through efforts made in her memory to protect other young people. Following Felicia's murder, her case became a symbol for the rising issue of missing minority children cases being overlooked. Felicia's family strongly advocated for new legislation requiring police to more thoroughly investigate missing young people of color. In 2012, Maryland passed a law called Felicia's Law, requiring improved coordination between agencies and information sharing in order to help locate missing children faster. It was an early victory in the fight to make sure all missing kids, regardless of background, are treated with urgency. The Barnes family also started the Felicia Barnes Foundation to connect loved ones of missing persons and provide counseling support. While Felicia never got to realize her own dreams, her memory is still helping people today. Felicia Barnes continues to be remembered for her kind heart, her academic talents, her passions for dance and psychology, and her loving nature. She is still missed dearly by all those whose lives she touched. For the tight-knit community in Monroe, North Carolina, Felicia is still one of their own, a beautiful soul gone far too soon. Though her murder remains unsolved, her legacy and spirit live on in the people Felicia inspired and the changes made in her name. It was a crisp early morning on March 19, 2009, when 35-year-old Claudia Lawrence stepped out of her small house in York, England, to make the over 2-mile trek to her job as a chef at the University of York's Goodricke College. By all accounts, it seemed like just another normal Thursday for Claudia. She had made this same walk countless times before. But this morning, something went terribly wrong. Claudia never made it to work that day. In fact, she has not been seen since. Her sudden disappearance sparked a massive investigation that is still ongoing after nearly 15 years. Yet, detectives remain completely baffled about what happened to Claudia. How could this friendly, outgoing woman who loved her job and talked to her parents every day just vanish without a trace on her way to work? Was she the victim of an opportunistic abduction along her early morning walk? Had she become entangled in a dangerous love affair that turned deadly? Or could someone closer to Claudia be responsible for her disappearance? There are so many puzzling questions and still no definite answers. Claudia Lawrence lived in a row house just a few doors down from a popular local pub called the Nag's Head. She didn't own a car, so on the morning of March 19th, with her vehicle in the shop, she set off on foot shortly before 5 a.m. to make it to work by 6. It was still dark out, but Claudia wasn't too concerned about the walk. The weather was decent, and she made the trek to and from the university several times a week. When Claudia didn't show up for her shift that morning, her co-workers assumed she was running late. But as the morning stretched on with no sign of Claudia, her boss grew worried and tried calling her cell phone. There was no answer. Concern mounted when Claudia also failed to meet her best friend Susie Cooper at the pub that night as planned. Susie tried calling too, but couldn't reach her. Sensing something was very wrong, Susie notified Claudia's father, Peter Lawrence. Peter told Susie he had just spoken to his daughter the night before. She gave no indication anything was amiss. In fact, they made plans to meet up the next evening for drinks. Peter rushed over to Claudia's house with Susie. Inside, they found no signs of foul play. Her chef's uniform, money, and identification were all there. Her bed was made. A few dirty dishes sat in the sink, but both her cell phone and the small bag she carried her uniform in were missing. It was clear Claudia had gotten up that morning fully intending to go to work. But for reasons no one could explain, she had vanished somewhere along her normal route. Peter Lawrence reported his daughter missing, certain she would never intentionally disappear without telling her loved ones. However, police initially weren't too concerned, believing the 35-year-old would soon reappear. But as hours turned to days with no contact from Claudia and no activity on her phone or bank accounts, investigators knew something sinister had taken place. An extensive search began along Claudia's likely path to work. Police scoured the area but found no signs that she had been injured or killed in an accident. They checked surveillance cameras too, but could not spot her on any footage. Detectives started looking into her personal life for clues. By all accounts, Claudia was a friendly, caring person with a positive attitude who loved her job as a chef. She came from a close-knit family and spoke to her parents, Peter and Joan, multiple times a week. Her parents were divorced, but she had good relationships with both of them. Her best friend Susie said Claudia lived life to the fullest and nothing seemed off when they last communicated the night before her disappearance. So why would this woman with seemingly no enemies or personal issues just vanish on her way to work? The deeper police dug, the more mysterious the case became. There were no promising leads and no trace of what happened to Claudia after she left for work sometime around 5 a.m. on March 19th. Search efforts ramped up. They scoured rivers, sewer systems, and properties throughout York. They interviewed friends, family members, co-workers, and anyone who knew Claudia. But every avenue led to a dead end. As days passed with no breaks in the case, investigators started to believe Claudia had not gone missing voluntarily. They feared she met with foul play. possibly having accepted a ride from someone she knew or getting abducted along her early morning walk. Someone out there had to know something useful. But even as weeks went by, the frustrating silence continued. In late April, with still no solid leads, detectives made the shocking announcement that they no longer believed Claudia was alive. Although they lacked evidence of any murder, it had been over a month since she vanished without a trace. Police believe she most likely came to harm at the hands of someone she potentially knew and willingly left with. But who and why? This spawned rumors that Claudia, who wasn't known to be dating anyone seriously, may have actually had dangerous liaisons with married men or others who wanted to keep the affair secret. However, her close friends disputed allegations that Claudia was leading some double life. She went on occasional dates, but didn't have endless illicit relationships.
She was a beautiful 35-year-old single woman with no children, no ties, not even a pet to worry about. So I think it would be strange if she didn't go out and meet men for drinks or dates. She was quite entitled to do that.
Still, it remained possible she fell victim to someone hiding a dark side. Investigators made pleas for anyone who had romantic ties to Claudia to come forward, vowing confidentiality, but no one ever did. Claudia's stunned parents clung to the faint hope their beloved daughter was still alive somehow, even as the case grew cold. But without her body or any trace of evidence, police simply had no way to prove if she was dead or alive. Heartbroken but determined, Peter Lawrence refused to give up the search for answers. He tirelessly campaigned to keep Claudia's story in the public eye, hoping to shake loose that one elusive clue. But year after year, his efforts led only to crushing disappointment as not a single legitimate sighting of Claudia occurred and no new evidence emerged. Periodically, detectives pursued new leads that initially seemed promising. In 2010, they released photos of Claudia taken on her way home from work, the last known pictures of her before she vanished. That same year, police got a potentially significant tip from a TV appeal that breathed temporary new life into the investigation. In 2013, they searched Claudia's house again, hoping advancing forensics technology might uncover missed evidence. Over the years, police even arrested several local men whose names came up as persons of interest. But there never was enough to link anyone to Claudia's presumed abduction and murder. All possible suspects had ironclad alibis or simply no motive to harm Claudia. In 2021, over 12 years after Claudia went missing, investigators took the extraordinary step of draining a nearby lake to search the bottom, acting on a tip her body might be there. But just like every other effort thus far, the labor-intensive operation ultimately led nowhere. Today, almost 15 years later, Claudia's baffling disappearance remains an impenetrable mystery. Detectives still believe with near certainty she met a violent end, but lacking her body or any solid forensic evidence, police have struggled to elevate the case beyond a suspicious missing persons investigation. And without that crucial proof of murder or manslaughter, prosecutors cannot file charges against any suspects, even if police could definitively name them. For Peter Lawrence, now in his late 70s, the agony of not knowing what happened to his precious daughter continues after all these years. He vows to keep fighting for justice until his last breath or until the truth is finally uncovered. Until then, he hopes and prays that one day soon a critical clue will emerge, finally exposing the cold truth of Claudia's shocking fate. For her sake and her loved ones, investigators hope so too. This haunting case serves as a cautionary tale of why people, especially women, should always exercise extreme care walking alone in isolated areas or accepting rides at night from casual acquaintances. Claudia's story also highlights how quickly an ordinary morning can take a heartbreaking turn and change lives forever. Her deeply distressing disappearance also underscores the vital importance of coming forward with any small scrap of information that could help break open an investigation, even years later. As one top investigator pointed out, by staying silent, people may be protecting whoever harmed Claudia. For now, the vanishing of this bright, promising young woman with her whole future ahead remains an impenetrable puzzle. Without answers, there is no justice. And without justice, Claudia's devastated family continues living an endless nightmare. But until police uncover the full truth about what happened that dark morning in March 2009, the disturbing mystery of Claudia Lawrence lives on. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and share this video and subscribe for future uploads.
Within the tapestry of human experience, where joy and sorrow intermingle, lies a story that echoes the complexities of love, loss, and the quest for justice. In Orlando, Florida, a tale unfolded that captivated a nation, weaving a narrative that transcends the personal and touches upon universal themes of human relationships. This is the story of Michelle Parker, a mother, daughter, and entrepreneur whose life took an unforeseen detour into mystery and heartbreak. Her disappearance, fraught with emotional upheaval and legal intrigue, presents a poignant exploration of the human condition, the resilience of a family in search of answers, and the relentless pursuit of truth in the face of uncertainty. Michelle Parker, known for her vibrant personality and entrepreneurial spirit, was more than just a headline or a case file. As a single mother juggling the demands of her mobile spray tan business and the joys and challenges of raising 3 children, she embodied the essence of determination and hope. Her life, marked by its ups and downs, was a testament to her resilience and her unwavering commitment to her family. In the backdrop of her bustling life, Michelle navigated the complexities of a failed engagement with Dale Smith, her former partner and the father of her twins. This relationship, once filled with promises of a shared future, devolved into a nexus of emotional and financial disputes that would later become crucial pieces in the puzzle of her disappearance. Dale Smith, a man whose life was a tapestry of his own, presented a contrasting image. With a history marked by legal entanglements, personal losses, and a series of turbulent relationships, Dale's past was shadowed by questions and uncertainties. His encounters with the law, ranging from minor infractions to more serious allegations, painted a complex picture of a man grappling with his own set of challenges. Their relationship, ignited in 2006, was a fusion of hope and eventual turmoil. The initial spark, which seemed to hold the promise of love and companionship, gradually gave way to a relationship marred by conflicts and misunderstandings. As Dale and Michelle's paths diverged, the remnants of their union became entangled in the legal system and public opinion. The dissolution of their engagement set the stage for a series of events that would escalate beyond the confines of a private dispute. At the heart of their conflict lay an engagement ring, a symbol of a commitment that never came to fruition, and a point of contention that would ignite further discord. Michelle's alleged act of discarding the ring during a heated moment symbolized more than just the end of their relationship. It became a catalyst for the ensuing legal and emotional battles that followed. Their story, however, was far from over. What began as a private struggle soon spilled into the public domain, setting the stage for a series of events that would captivate and perplex a nation. The dynamics of Michelle and Dale's post-breakup relationship took a dramatic turn when Dale decided to bring their dispute over the engagement ring to a national audience.
We were dating about 4 years.
A roller coaster romance.
He said that he wanted his ring. I threw it out.
Derails.
I felt somebody grab me and yank me around. He's crying, I'm crying, he's sorry, I'm sorry. We brushed it under the rug and I stayed with him for a few more months.
You're like drugs to each other. You're addicted to each other.
Next, People's Court.
Choosing to air their grievances on the People's Court was a move that not only surprised Michelle, but also plunged her into a scenario she had once found entertaining, yet never imagined being a part of. This decision would later be scrutinized for its timing and intentions, adding layers of complexity to an already intricate situation. On the show, which was recorded prior to its airing, the couple's turbulent relationship was laid bare for the public to see. Accusations and revelations made by Michelle painted a picture of a relationship fraught with issues, including infidelity and physical confrontations. The judge's decision to have the cost of the ring split represented a legal resolution to one aspect of their conflict, but emotionally, the wounds were far from healed. For Michelle, the experience was a humiliating ordeal, an exposure of her personal life that she had neither sought nor desired. The fateful day of Michelle's disappearance, November 17, 2011, was marked by a convergence of events that would later be dissected for clues and meanings. The airing of the People's Court episode featuring Michelle and Dale coincided with the last day Michelle was seen. The timeline of her day, including her final text messages and the routine act of dropping off her twins at Dale's residence, became critical elements in the investigation that followed. Michelle's sudden disappearance sent shockwaves through her family and community. The discovery of her vehicle, with its distinctive business decals removed, and the retrieval of her phone under circumstances that suggested foul play, deepened the mystery. The involvement of law enforcement brought the case into the public eye, raising numerous questions about the circumstances leading up to her vanishing. Dale Smith, the last person known to have seen Michelle, became a central figure in the ensuing investigation. His past, coupled with his actions and reactions in the aftermath of Michelle's disappearance, drew scrutiny from both the authorities and the public. Despite the lack of immediate evidence linking him to any wrongdoing, his refusal to fully cooperate with the investigation, including his reluctance to take a polygraph test, cast a shadow of suspicion. The search for Michelle Parker was extensive, involving law enforcement, family, friends, and volunteers. The initial phase of the investigation focused on piecing together Michelle's movements on the day she disappeared. Surveillance footage, cell phone records, and witness statements became key elements in constructing a timeline of her last known activities. The discovery of her abandoned vehicle, and later her mobile phone, added to the growing concern that Michelle had met with foul play. Despite these efforts, the investigation encountered significant challenges. The lack of direct evidence, such as surveillance footage capturing Michelle's actual disappearance, and the absence of a crime scene hindered the ability to draw concrete conclusions. As days turned into weeks and then months, the hope of finding Michelle alive began to wane, but the determination to uncover the truth only intensified. Dale Smith's designation as the prime suspect in the case by the Orlando Police Department brought a new level of intensity to the investigation. His past encounters with the law, his tumultuous relationship with Michelle, and his behavior during the investigation was scrutinized. However, the absence of concrete evidence linking him to Michelle's disappearance left investigators and the public in a state of frustrating uncertainty. In the wake of Michelle's disappearance, the legal focus shifted to the custody of her and Dale's twins. The contentious custody battle became a parallel storyline, with implications for both families involved. Michelle's family, particularly her mother, Yvonne Stewart, fought tirelessly to maintain a relationship with the grandchildren amidst the backdrop of suspicion and grief. The custody rulings, swinging back and forth, reflected the complexity of the situation, where the children's welfare was paramount, but the shadow of the ongoing investigation loomed large. For Michelle's family, the disappearance was a life-altering event. Each development in the case, each search that turned up empty, each court hearing, and each passing year without answers added layers to their grief. Yvonne Stewart, serving as both an advocate for her missing daughter and a grandmother striving to protect her grandchildren, became a public face of resilience and determination. The family's efforts extended beyond the search for Michelle. They became advocates for legal changes, seeking to protect the rights of families in similar situations. As years passed, the case of Michelle Parker remained in the public consciousness, a mystery that continued to evoke questions and speculation. The lack of closure not only affected her family, but also resonated with a community that had followed her story from the beginning. The hope for new leads, a breakthrough in the investigation, or even a confession that could shed light on what happened to Michelle, remained a distant, yet fervently held aspiration. Public's engagement with the case highlighted the vital role of community involvement in missing person investigations. It also brought to the forefront discussions about safety, particularly for women, and the importance of public vigilance in such cases. Community efforts in the search for Michelle, from organized searches to spreading awareness through social media, demonstrated the power of collective action in the face of adversity. The case also prompted conversations about the legal system's handling of missing persons cases, especially those involving complex family dynamics and custody issues. The legal battles over the custody of Michelle's twins raise questions about the rights of families, the welfare of children in custody disputes, and the intersection of family law with criminal investigations. Moreover, the challenges faced by law enforcement in gathering evidence and pursuing leads in Michelle's case underscored the need for advancements in investigative techniques and resources in missing person cases. Despite the passage of time, the case of Michelle Parker remains shrouded in mystery, with more questions than answers. The enduring questions about what happened to Michelle after she dropped her children at Dale Smith's residence, the motives behind her disappearance, and the location of her remains continue to haunt all those involved. The absence of definitive evidence and the lack of closure serve as a stark reminder of the complexities and limitations of criminal investigations in missing person cases. Michelle's family, while grappling with the pain of not knowing, continues their pursuit of justice and closure. Their journey is a testament to the strength of familial bonds and the human spirit's resilience in the face of unimaginable loss. The case remains a poignant narrative about hope, the relentless quest for answers, and the enduring impact of a single life on a community and beyond. The story of Michelle Parker transcends the specifics of her disappearance, resonating with universal themes of love, loss, and the search for truth. It is a narrative that reflects the complexities of human relationships, the challenges of the legal system, and the enduring quest for justice. As this story continues to unfold, it remains a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the unyielding strength of those left behind, still searching for answers.
In a quiet Northern California town, a horrific crime shattered lives and left a community demanding answers. What happened that night in Cabin 28, and who was responsible? This is the story of the infamous Keddie murders. It was an unseasonably warm Saturday night in April of 1981 when Glenna Sharp and her 5 children settled in for a quiet evening at home in their small cabin in the resort town of Keddie. As darkness fell over the remote mountain community, Glenna had no way of knowing that before sunrise, 3 people would be brutally murdered within the thin walls of Cabin 28, with her own 12-year-old daughter disappearing into the night. When 14-year-old Sheila Sharp returned the next morning, she discovered a bloodbath. The walls, doors, and floors were covered in blood spatter. Her mother, older brother John, and his friend Dana Wingate lay dead, bound and viciously stabbed and bludgeoned. Miraculously, Sheila's younger brothers and their friends slept soundly in the back bedroom, unaware of the horror that had taken place steps from where they lay. What happened that night in Cabin 28 would ignite fear and suspicion in the once peaceful town, while the unsolved murders left a family grieving and a community demanding answers. 40 years later, the mystery surrounding the Keddie killings lives on. The Sharp family had come to Keddie looking for a fresh start, escaping Glenna's abusive marriage. Though outsiders viewed her as an unemployed single mother of 5 sponging off welfare, Glenna was determined to build a new life in California. She rented Cabin 28, nestled in the woods along the Feather River Canyon in Plumas County, 200 miles northeast of San Francisco. To her teenage children, Keddie seemed like an idyllic escape from urban Connecticut. 15-year-old John dove into playing sports and pulling pranks with his neighborhood friends. Sheila quickly made new friends, while Tina enjoyed local playgrounds and sleepovers. But not all of Keddie welcomed the Sharps with open arms. Glenna in particular faced resentment from some townspeople over her reliance on food stamps and public assistance. She also grappled with rumors questioning her parenting skills and implying promiscuity. As darkness fell on April 11, 1981, Glenna settled in at home with her 2 youngest boys, 10-year-old Ricky and 5-year-old Greg, along with Ricky's friend Justin, who was sleeping over. That night, John arrived home with his friend Dana Wingate, while Tina returned from a slumber party around 10 p.m. By morning, the lives of the Sharp family and friend Dana Wingate would be forever altered. Around 8 a.m. on April 12, 1981, 14-year-old Sheila Sharp approached the front door of Cabin 28. Right away, she knew something was wrong. The screen door was badly damaged. Stepping inside, she stopped short in horror. The living room walls were covered in blood spatter. Blood pooled on the floor and stained the furniture. In the center of the room lay the bodies of her mother Glenna, her brother John, and Dana Wingate. Their hands and feet were tightly bound, and their bodies bore deep stab wounds and savage blows to the head. Glenna's body was draped with a blanket, an oddly sentimental gesture amidst the brutality. After discovering her younger brothers and friends sleeping unharmed in the back bedroom, Sheila raced for help. Soon, police swarmed the scene as word spread through the tiny town. Detectives realized young Tina was missing. They feared whoever killed 3 people with such violence likely abducted the 12-year-old. Thus began a complex murder investigation plagued by missteps as police contended with forensic evidence mishandling, vanishing recordings, and other blunders. With Tina still missing, their search for answers would stretch over years, leaving a grieving family and community demanding justice. In the immediate aftermath, police attention centered on escaped Manson family member Boubed and his acquaintance Marty Smart. The men had ties to young Justin, who survived the attack unharmed. Questions swirled about what Justin might have witnessed as the only surviving eyewitness. Yet early missteps by police allowed Smart and Boubed to pass polygraph tests and slip away as suspicion lingered. With the investigation stalling, the tight-knit community grappled with fear of the unknown killer still walking free. 3 years later came a break in the case. An anonymous call led police to uncover Tina Sharp's remains in a remote part of Feather Falls. Yet the caller's voice recording that might have aided police mysteriously disappeared. Still, Tina's body discovery sparked hope that answers might come. In following years, young Justin's recollections offered glimpses into what might have happened inside Cabin 28. Under hypnosis as an adult, Justin shared buried memories of seeing 2 men attacking his friend's family that night. Further questioning of Justin and other witnesses pointed to Marty Smart and Beau Boubed as the possible attackers. Yet squandered early leads meant faded memories and lost evidence. The case grew cold without arrests. In 2000, one shadowy figure, Marty Smart, died at just 51 years old. His one-time accomplice Boubed disappeared from public view. Questions linger whether Boubed still walks free while victims and families wait in vain for justice. Today, just slabs and grassy clearings remain where blood once flowed at Cabin 28. Keddy Resort cabins still nestle along the Feather River Canyon, now modernized. Yet shadows of the past haunt the land where the Sharp family's American dream ended brutally. Locals claim mist gathers over the former Cabin 28 site. Some say spirits roam there, unable to rest. The mysteries of that violent night 40 years ago still whisper through the pine trees. Scraps of rumors suggest gambling debts, revenge, robbery, and rage drove the savage attacks. Yet with the killers never named and tried, the full truth stays buried. Questions, pain, and anger remain over the lost lives and justice denied. For one family and a whole town, the wounds run deep, never fully healed. The Keddy murders changed this peaceful getaway town forever. What really happened that night in Cabin 28? After 40 years, only the killers know, and they're still out there. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe for more future uploads. Stay safe.